Yaira, #1. This is the 4th comic in Rippaverse. We're going to talk about it using my space system: story, pacing, artistry, characters, enjoyment. Each category gets a score between 0 and 2, so 2 is the best you can get in any category. If I give it a 0, it's bad, obviously. If I give it a 1, it was like okay. If I give it a 2, it was amazing. For the storyline on this one, I went back and forth. I'll give it 1 point for the story. The thing is that I think this is one of these occasions where world building took the place of storytelling, and it's very difficult to kind of work with this. Now, this was, I guess, Eric July's concept. The Soska sisters are the writers. I did enjoy, I don't know how many comics they've written. I think they only wrote that Black Widow series, which I actually thought was quite good, pretty exciting. So I did like that one. So I was looking forward to this one. I just think that too many ideas were kind of brought into this first one. Now, this is like about 100 pages or just shy of 100 pages. So it's a thicker book. It's like a graphic novel, how they say. But I still think, I'm thinking the entire Rippaverse needs to be shorter and maybe more frequent and less money. So maybe make it like, I don't know, 50 pagers, like half, maybe do half the pages, and then try to cram a bit more story within that. I feel like there's a lot of things that were just kind of left open, and you're like, who is this again, or what is going on exactly? I did make a few notes here. Some refer to characters, some refer to just the story. I did not read Alpha Core #1, and I did not read ISOM #2. ISOM #1, I do have a review posted for that. I believe I gave it a 7 out of 10, though I have not gone back to revisit it. And I haven't really had the desire to go revisit it. I almost thought maybe I'll reread it and then check out ISOM 2 and Alpha Core, but I think ultimately it didn't hold my interest enough for me to go back and reread it. Nothing specifically against it, but it just wasn't exciting enough for me. I think I misinterpreted what the Rippaverse was going to be based on what I had known of Eric July, who seemed to be sort of like, into the more exciting kind of comics like Bronze Age. I thought this was going to be a Bronze Age style, big heroes, big epic moments and fights and battles, and these are the bad guys and they're scumbags. And I feel like there's too much gray going on here, and it's to the point where I'm not really excited about any particular character. We're going to get to the characters category. I'm just trying to see. I don't like to edit my videos, so this might be a little bit weird, but yeah, okay. So because I'm looking at my notes, so pacing, for the pacing, this is a tough one. Some parts I was disinterested in, but some parts were pretty good. There was a lot of fights, so I'm gonna give it a 1. I'll give it 1 point for pacing. It was okay. There was a lot of fights, so that's obviously acceptable and cool to have. I just feel that, like, sometimes if the story isn't there, you start to get slightly bored even when there's action. So there's no lack of action in this 100-page comic, but it was this sort of the importance of the action. You're almost like, if you're not invested as much in the story, the action just becomes there just to be, it's like, okay, it's characters beating each other up, but I have no idea what's going on. Like, I can't give you an example, but let's say, like, if you don't like let's say you don't like wrestling, WWE wrestling, and you're not invested in the storyline of the characters. You see a match on TV and you're like, oh, I don't care about this guy and I don't care about this guy. So it's a match and you're like, oh, that was a pretty good wrestling match, but I wasn't invested in what was going on in the match. That's kind of where I am here. I know it's a #1, but usually if there's a #1 issue, it's gotta entice me to buy #2, and this is what happened with ISOM. I thought ISOM 1 was okay. I did give it a fairly decent rating because it was a first comic of a first-time universe, first-time writer. A lot of firsts in that one, so it's tough to come out of the gate with like a super banger, right? But I thought it was all right. I just didn't go back to, and I have the feeling with Yaira, though I'm not sure how the score is going to pan out for Yaira Part 1. We'll continue it on, but I think maybe overall, I maybe like Yaira a little bit better than ISOM 1 because I still felt a little bit more focus in that one. Maybe that's due to the Soska sisters, the writing. I'm not sure. But anyway, for the artistry, now this is a really touchy subject for this one, and a lot of people have been sort of choosing sides on this. There is an artist credited. I never read out the credits in my reviews. If you're wondering why is he not reading out these credits, I'm looking at the final product. I don't really care about how it was created or who created it. I'm looking at the final thing that I'm supposed to keep, and put it in my box or whatever. Like, I'm looking at the final product. So it doesn't matter to me, but the art sometimes looks pretty good and sometimes it's like not great at all. And I did see a few posts. I'm only learning about all this stuff right now as I've been researching this Yaira, and I didn't realize there's like this enormous battle, this versus battle going on with all these guys involved. It's crazy. But yeah, some of the art does not look good to me. I don't know what to tell you. Some of it looks pretty good though. I don't know. Again, look, nothing's beaten like Neil Adams or whatever. Or Jack Kirby's my man. Listen, I like that cartooning. I like that style. Obviously, Neil Adams, one of the greats of all time. Like, you're not going to beat these guys. Like, it's just like not happening. It's like, it's decent. I'll give it 1 point. I'll give it a 1 for the art. Like, it's all right. Some of it looks not great. Some of it looks okay. I don't know, it's subjective, right? The colors are okay sometimes, the layouts are not too bad. I can kind of, be, well, this is okay. It's an independent comic. Like I do have to hold different standards. I am reviewing this comic based on itself and your expectation level as well. I personally don't expect much out of indie comics, to be quite honest with you. And it was okay. Like, I don't want to sit here and bag on stuff. I in my research of this before this video, I saw that there's so many people already fighting about, who drew this panel and who drew this page, and I don't know at all. So if you came here for me to answer something, I have no idea who drew anything. So the art was okay. I'll give it a pass. Could have been a lot better. Some of it's okay. Some of it's really awful. So I was gonna give it a 0.5, but I was okay with it. So let's go with that. The characters, here's where we've got a massive problem for me personally. I'm going to give it a 0.5 for the characters. I was thinking of giving it 0, which I think might be unfair because it is the first appearance, I guess, full appearance of Yaira. But I found many inconsistencies with the characterization of Yaira. In the openings, so we all saw that trailer. There's an animated trailer and there's a live action trailer. I'm not going to comment on those. Again, I'm only commenting on the thing that I'm going to put in my box or whatever, right? So Yaira shows up and there's a bunch of punk kids or whatever, being punks and, robbing someone, robbing people. And then Yaira shows up. And there's a girl there who's got the girl, Stefania, maybe, is that her name? So she has like the mohawky hair, and she's somehow gotten some of Yaira's powers, the ice powers. So then Yaira comes down and just friggin' like smash the crap out of her. And you saw that in the live action trailer. She smashed the crap out of her. And then the girl's like, oh, what the heck? And she's like, okay. Well, she's got some blood, but she's like not dead. And she's like, oh my God, like, you're trying to knock me out or what? And then Yaira says, no, it was meant to be a death blow. So I'm not sure, like, I thought, well, that's kind of odd because you just appear on the situation and you just, and your intent was to murder one of the robbers. Look, I'm not for robbery. This is where my interpretation of what this is got kind of messed up, because I thought this was a superhero thing. I don't see Superman coming down and just beating the crap, or let's say Wonder Woman or Supergirl. Let's say it was Supergirl. Supergirl's a bit more, in the later interpretation of Supergirl, she's a bit more rougher, right, than your good old fashioned Clara. I love original Clara. I'm sorry, Kara. I love original Kara. Anyways, but no, she comes down and she punches, like, oh crap, like what the heck. Now, then I started to think, oh, I suppose Yaira is more of one of these gray shaded, characters, where it's like she's not a hero, she's not a villain, she just kind of exists and does her own thing, anti-hero maybe, but she did try to hurt her. But then later on, these other folks show up. There's these alien characters, where the one alien-looking guy looks pretty cool, actually, and then the other two people, and they're like, oh, Yaira, you've committed all these crimes and you're bad. I was like, oh, maybe is Yaira the villain? I thought this is an interesting concept. I guess she's the villain of this comic and we're going to be following a villain instead. But then she goes to save the girl, and you're like, well, she wants to protect her now. I thought, well, what happened? You wanted to kill her earlier and now you don't. I feel like a lot of this stuff is it's told just to be told. It's a bit contrived to me with the way that these characters are portrayed. Alpha Core, which I thought was supposed to be like a Justice League or something. I didn't read Alpha Core #1 though. They're kind of assholes. Like, they're all jerks. And at one point, the guy is there and Yaira's having this battle with these 3 other people that know her and want to take her in or beat her up. And the guy from Alpha Core, the main guy, he's like, oh no, we're not going to interfere. It's like, but aren't people getting hurt? Like, shouldn't you interfere to stop this? Like, I understand that I guess they don't like Yaira for whatever reason, and they want to see, will these 3 people beat her up? Yeah, but they're causing damage. So shouldn't you go, if you're the cops or whatever, shouldn't you go and just stop it? Like, the cops don't determine guilt or innocence on the spot, right? This isn't Judge Dredd or whatever. They stop the violence in general, restrain everybody, sort it out later, right? Because maybe Yaira was right, maybe she was wrong. I don't know. Maybe these are space cops that want her for other crimes. I don't know. You get to meet an old lady, that's fine. There's a lot of flashbacks with some cool ideas. There's also a lot of repeat dialogue, which I found to be slightly distracting, where these 3 characters are like, oh, Yaira, you are terrible. You're a terrible person. You've done all these crimes. It's like, well, you guys seem like pretty terrible too. You release all these bug creatures and it's like you're causing all this damage. Like, you guys are bad too. So I don't know who you're judging, by the way. But anyways, and she's like, well, I'm going to stop you and all this. And it seems like this conversation gets repeated many, many times. And I thought, why is this? I got it. So I don't know about that. The enjoyment factor, this is a tough one. It's a tough one. I basically think of, would I read this again? Probably not. Would I recommend it to a friend of mine who liked comics? I'm not sure that I would. Do I think it was bad? Because now I'm seeing there's a lot of people who are really like, oh yeah, rippaverse is going to save it. The universe is going to save Marvel or save comics or whatever. And then there's guys who are like, well, this is the worst trash thing I've ever seen in my life. There's no way I'm on either of these sides. Like, gosh, I'll give it a 1. I'll give it a 1 for enjoy. Like, it was okay. There were some neat things. I'm struggling because there's actually some cool ideas. Like, I like this Viking thing. Oh, she's like with this Viking guy. That's kind of cool. Then you got these other guys. I think they just got so pumped for their own idea. They're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be so good, and we're gonna throw these Viking guys in there. Oh shit, there's gonna be these guys made out of diamond. There's these diamond creatures. Oh shit, yeah, throw those guys in. Like, whoa, like I'm completely confused. And the thing is that when I'm confused by all of the ideas being brought in at once, and I know that there's the concept of it'll be explained later, but world building comes from one issue to one issue to one issue as the world gets built out. Like, Amazing Spider-Man #1 doesn't have everything worked out immediately, right? As you go, it's like, okay, he fights, whatever, Thinker, Chameleon, whatever, Vulture. I don't remember the order of appearance. I think Vulture was #2 probably. I think issue 2 is Vulture. So Vulture's issue 2, right? Then as it goes on, you introduce more and more characters and the worlds get built that way. And then you have a guy who's like, oh, I'm from your past, or, oh, the Jackal, like, I'm going to clone you and bring Gwen Stacy back. Oh shit, what the heck, That's how the world gets built. I think this term of world building has kind of ruined some comics, and this isn't just independent, but anybody, where they're like, well, we have to put all this stuff in it. It feels very bloated. You're like, oh, okay, I just like, there's too many cool ideas that none of them end up standing out in the end for me. So it's a tough one. I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 10. Based on my rating system, a 5 is sort of like a passing grade. I don't really work in extremes. I did give a 0 to a Doctor Who episode, but it was actually really awful. So I'm not a person who likes to work in the extremes. I'm evaluating the comic and going from there. That's all it is. Please let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on Yaira 1. Did I misread this? Maybe I didn't, catch on to everything. I'm not infallible. I don't know. I don't know everything. But I got to go with my own enjoyment factor. I'm going to give it a 4.5. It could be maybe even a 5, maybe even a 5.5, right? Maybe I'll look at it again and think it over. But I want to take this time in the video to just thank everybody who's watched to this point. And I just want to make it clear that I am not involved in any of these. I didn't know there was this like civil war going on between comic creators. Um, I have no affiliation with anybody on any of these teams or whatever they are. I'm not even 100% sure who's on what team. I guess I'm going to find out if anyone, I guess I'm going to find out. So I have no idea what's going on, man. I'm just reading my comics. I'll say this, from what I've seen of the interviews and stuff, from what I've seen, Eric seems pretty cool. I'm Canadian as well. The Soska sisters do not bother me in any way. I know their movies. They remade Rabid. Oh, Cronenberg, man, come on. So obviously they love David Cronenberg, and so do I. So I definitely have that in common with them. When I did my Black Widow review, when that book had come out, they had been very kind. They shared my review out, so I appreciate that. They seem like okay to me. I have no problems with them. I have no idea. But again, I'm not really following creators. I don't really follow any creators on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. Even if you thought, like, I think a lot of people end up looking at the comics that people produce based on the people producing them. Like, I couldn't care less if Kathleen Kennedy was good or bad. I can only tell you that under her reign, there's been some really terrible Star Wars films or products, let's say, TV shows. I don't know what she's like. Maybe she's a great dinner guest and she's got a lot of funny stories, right? I don't know. I can only evaluate what I see, right? What I touch, what I feel, what I read, what I look at. I can only evaluate that. I can't evaluate what could have been. Oh, well, we were going to do this and this. I can't evaluate them. This is the Zack Snyder thing where, I'm going to re-edit it now and make listen, what I watched it, it wasn't good. I don't know what to tell you, or I didn't like it. So anyway, that's it, everybody. If you enjoy my spaces, and please like the video, consider subscribing, check out my other stuff, and I appreciate everybody. Thanks. Until next time.